we're going to be doing so much together,
Mhm.
because I think it's going to make a difference for my grandchildren with what you're creating and for the world around us. So just have a blessed day. Thank you so much. We'll pray for your son, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Please
Yeah,
do.
there you go. We
Keep us
will. And we will talk to you soon, Lefty.
absolutely. Dare to dream, everyone.
Dare to dream. All right. You know, he's one of the most genuine people I've ever known. And I haven't known him that long. We just, it's been a really quick association, and there was just something that clicked. And I saw that part, and I saw, you know what? There's a lot we can create, but he really has that ability to just sort of put it out there. And I think part of that, what happens is that he has he has literally been in front of millions and millions of people, and he has captained, right? He was the captain of a team that went worldwide, and he was left-handed, so he saw it from a different perspective. You always have to think of that. But he really grounded his children, and I just honor that. So give that a round of applause. Now, our next gentleman, it's amazing that wisdom comes from many different directions. He has literally taught people to think a different way and to take their thoughts into action for at least 100 years. And I know he looks young, so you're going to see this. Rex Sikes is just one of those most brilliant people on the planet. And what's really funny about Rex is every time I talk to somebody about I know Rex Sikes, they're like, oh, I know Rex Sikes, or I did this thing 25 years ago, or he changed my life. And that's all we ever hear. And he's a big part of the leadership group, and he's just always making a change in the world. Everybody from the Los Angeles Tribune and myself and Mr. Mohawk, let's give it up for Mr. Rex Sikes. Look at you. Look, you look pretty good for a couple 100 years old.
For a couple 100 years, I'm doing quite okay.
But
it actually is. Thank you for that kind, open introduction, and for being here and having me on. And it is 51 years that I've been doing this stuff professionally this year. And
wow.
I started as a kid, but so it's longer, and I've been teaching it. But I mean, professionally, I've been teaching it since 1974.
Wow. And what really, sometimes people want to always know this perspective, but what started you out? What was the first thing that just sort of, hit you and you went, "Oh, yes, I need to do this."
I actually write about it in Life on Your Terms, just very briefly.
Mhm.
I was raised Catholic. I sat with my mom and watched movies and wanted to be an actor. And I was going to church because we had to go to church every morning. And I looked at the priest and thought, this guy's got some major connection going on. If anybody can help me be an actor, it's the guy who's got the direct line upstairs. I want that. And so I asked my mom if there were books around the house, that she could read. So there was the Bible, and there was Napoleon Hill's books, and there was Wallace Waddle, and other books, and the Bhagavad Gita. And so she just started reading nightly to me, and I was 6 years old. And by the time I was 11, I was reading most of these books on my own. I always say I didn't necessarily appreciate them much more than an 11-year-old could, but I had a fairly basic understanding of it. And my dentist at the time was a medical practitioner, was a hypnotist, so he taught me hypnosis. And so from 11 on, I was hypnotizing kids in the neighborhood and then teaching
Wow.
hypnosis. So it just kind of rolled into it. But that's not to say that I was an okay kid. I mean, I was an okay kid, but I mean, I had my own issues and problems that I had to overcome, and learn to do that. And again, I write about it in one of the chapters in the book on how I came to do what I do, and teach directed questions is a big part. A lot of people have been doing it. They don't always call it directed questions. They call it many other different names. The attitude activator, mind design, those kinds of things came from an event when I was about 24 years old.
Wow. It's amazing when you say how long you've been doing this. And it's not just about that, it's how many students. Again, we talked with Lefty about how many lives he's touched, but it's how many people, and how many of the people I respect you were around when they started.
And many of them I've either met, learned from, helped teach, or whatever. But you said something in the opening, and it's very, people say, "Oh, you changed my life," and I've always been very clear. Never say I changed their life. Say you changed the life with something I shared with you, or that I taught you, or that I inspired you. But my job has always been, I always consider myself like the quarterback of a team, not as a star player, but somebody who takes the ball and either tosses it to somebody or hands it off to somebody so that they can score, and together as a team we score. And so, and I've said this from the early days in workshops. When people would write me a letter or they come up and talk to me, I go, "You changed your life using something I may have shared with you, showed you, taught you, demonstrated, or whatever, but you did it. Own it." And
Yeah.
that's really powerful. I mean,
Yeah.
in that a lot of people want to give their power away. You need to own your power. You made the changes, and somebody else was the catalyst.
Yeah, and when somebody else, when you look at the like catalyst or how that happens, and I always say it's really important for us all to have mentors. I think that's a piece that a lot of people sort of don't quite get, or their mentor is, again, like Billy, so their broke brother-in-law. There's always that piece there, right? So
Well,
who were some of your mentors or people that you
well,
hung out with but really changed you?
well. That I mean, that's such a powerful point, and that a lot of people listen to the wrong people for advice. But that goes also to the shiny objects and the popular people. Because not all the popular
Hmm.
people are people you should pay attention to. They got
Yeah.
there for whatever reason. And I'll preface it by saying this. Um, I wrote Life on Your Terms as a leadership book, but it's about leading yourself in transformation. And when you've led yourself and know how to lead yourself, then maybe you can lead others. It's not about having
Right.
followers. It's about demonstrating what needs to be done so other people can do it. You watch Braveheart or some of these movies, they led their troops into battle and the people followed them because they wanted, you know, what the leader was showing. But a lot of people just want followers, or they want heads in a room, or they want people to validate them. Um,
Right.
so I'm very careful. Most of my mentors have been women, and not that many people that you necessarily know. A lot of my acting coaches. One of the people who knew more about NLP before NLP even came about was a woman named Lillian Chauvin. I studied daily, almost daily. I worked with her and studied with her. I taught her classes. I taught for at USC and directing and acting and stuff as well. But she was a psychology student. She was from France. The word chauvinistic was from her husband's family, which she married into. But she was just a brilliant woman, actress, mentor, friend, guide. I knew her from essentially 1974 until her death. I think it was like 2008 or nine. And but
Sure.
what a powerful woman she was. Pat Collins, the hypnotist, was a
Hmm.
preeminent hypnotist. I taught her uh, self hypnosis classes with her. She took me under her wing. For some reason, she liked me, and
Yeah.
she was one. Obviously, I've worked with Bandler and Grinder, but I've lived with a lot of gurus. Rajneesh, Muktananda, Satchidananda. I mean, and so my life has been filled with people from the east to the west, women, men, uh, ancient stuff, neuroscience stuff, Michael Gazagnia, the split brain research, and other people that I've been very blessed. I've been very fortunate. Anybody I've ever wanted to meet, I pretty much have met. Have found my way to them, and they've either helped, guided me, or taught me. I have many mentors from being an actor and a filmmaker in Hollywood. So, and some of them were not just filmmakers, but spiritual people, or people
Right.
with a presence. So it's been very cool.
Yeah, it's amazing how much we can, if we let, it's like if we let go. That's the sort of the old, and the Buddhism would be the monkey brain. But if you really let go and you're able to just see what's around you, it's amazing how much is actually around us. How much beauty and wisdom and people and the biggest thing is that I always find with you come from the perspective, because we're talking about leadership, you come from the perspective of how can I be of service? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, thank you. I grew up with Hollywood friends, right? Celebrities and powerful people in the film business and finance and meditation and self help. I mean, all these different kinds of things. I'm not impressed. I don't care. I don't care. It's here's an interesting statement, and I'm going to kind of contradict it and embrace it at the same time. They say bad
Hmm.
leaders care about who the person is, and good leaders care about what is going on. So so for me, it's never been about who, but I've been very fortunate to be around a lot of amazing people and a lot of jerks. And as a result, and a lot of bad teachers. I mean, I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe millions of dollars, getting trained from good people and not so good people. It's all been valuable because you either learn what to do or you learn what not to do. You learn who to trust or who not to trust. And both of those are important. Discernment is an incredible thing. So I don't care how much money you have. I don't care what power you have. I don't care how shiny you have or what cars or houses or anything or what your name or any celebrity. I don't care. What I care about is, are you a compassionate, a collaborator, somebody who is concerned with other people, helping other people, understanding, patient, tolerant, kind, and generous. So it is from the standpoint of how do I serve? Because unless you're adding value to somebody, then what are you doing? You're maybe taking value. And
Right.
I would rather give value. And I have a program called How to Get People to Do What You Want Without Begging, Pleading, Whining, or Guilt Tripping. And the whole part of that, the premise of that program is if other people know that their interests are in your heart and that you will take care of them and you will help them fulfill their purpose, their destiny, not yours and not your agenda for them, but theirs, then they're more likely to do things because they trust you. You know, we say know, like, and trust, but they know you,
Yep.
they do trust you. And because of that, they may also like you. And people say, well, hey, guess what? I'm a parent, I've got kids, they never do anything I say. And my point in that is they don't like you when you ask. They may love you overall, but they don't like you when you're asking. So how do you want to learn how to be able to be that kind of person, to be able to make a request. And the easiest way to make a request is to give something first.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah,
Yeah, go
we
ahead.
had Cialdini on, and he has written the book on the principles like, the law of reciprocity, do something that, that serves the other person, then they feel like returning that. So that is, that's, it's, or karma, but I mean, it is such an important point. You were saying something and I interrupted. Go ahead, please, Michael.
No, it's okay. I think, that being a service part, because I talk about it all the time. I think that piece of, a service is just how can I give, or what can I give, and giving that part first, because if you're truly in that position, people know it. People always know when you're there to serve, and people always know. They just, like, you can't hide it. Um, and I think it's always because, we used to do a lot of karma crews and crews who used to run the events and the back ends, and sometimes we'd have teams of 600, and they're volunteering.
Right.
And a lot of, and you could see the ones that are there truly of service. They're just there to serve. They'll do anything it takes. It was a great experience for me to watch that for 20 years, because I realized, how am I showing up? Right. Looking in the mirror at myself. Right. We have those 12 to 16-hour days, and then you got to show up the next day. You got 12 to 16. Go ahead.
No. I'm agreeing with you.
You know that world. You know what it's like, but you see right away who's really there to be of service or who's not really just, they don't want to be there. And I was like, you don't want to be there, then make that decision.
Well, like you, we've all shared the platform with lots of people, and some people understand that sometimes there's a lot of drama and negativity and all sorts of crap that goes on behind the scenes. And other times it's wonderful and rosy and everybody loves each other, is hugging each other. And there are those people that you get to know through the circuit. This is going to be an issue, or this person is going to be, great. I've traveled around with enough people and around Europe or Australia or this country, and trained with enough people, and people would come to the training because they wanted to meet the trainers. And so many of the trainers that I hang out with want to go hang out with the other trainers. I hung out with the participants. I said, I could catch up with you guys anytime. The participants are here to see us. So I'd go sit in the bar with the participants in the restaurants, hang out. In my own trainings, the day would begin at 7 or 8 o'clock with breakfast. I would be there at breakfast. I would have lunch with them. We would have dinner together. The training would go from 9 to 9 officially. And afterwards I would sit up until 1, 2, 3 in the morning, and then get up and do it all again. I would do that. I've done that for up to about 3 months at a time. So I'm used to that, and I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I'd rather sit and talk for an hour than stand and talk for 12. But I love it because when I'm doing that, when I'm there, they're there for the information. They came there to see me. They want what I have to offer, kind of thing. And I want to make sure that I over deliver it. I just want to make sure that they go home never feeling like they have to do anything ever again. That it's complete. They got the transformation they wanted, and if they want to continue, they can, but it's not a prerequisite. It's not like, okay, you got this far, now we need to do the next thing. It's like, hey, wasn't this cool? And they go, yeah.
Right.
I go, okay, well, there's more if you want it, but if you don't want it, I don't care. It's up to you.
Yeah.
But I think, and an important point to make is, leaders don't tell others what to do. They help other people make the right decisions for themselves. So if anyone's telling you or bullying you or giving you unwarranted advice, I mean, that's the other thing. Is people say, well, you should do this, or like what you opened with about listening to the broke uncle. You don't want tyranny, and you don't want dictators, and you don't want that. You want people who are there to embrace you, to uplift you, to edify you, maybe challenge you, because you need a challenge. If it's just all really comfort and roses, you may not grow at all, because roses have thorns. But
Yeah.
it's all in a safe, trusting, not only environment, but in the relationship. And that contract between another person is sacrosanct. And I would do anything I can never to violate anything like that.
Yeah, and I think that's that important point, because especially when you're working with people, and we used to do this. First of all, do you know what you want to create, your mission and vision? But when you're working with other people and you're doing it for 16 hours a day, and then at this 15th hour, they say, "Oh my gosh, can you unpack 5,000 books?" Right? And that, and it is that part of yourself that you reach in, and you just say, "I'm here of service. I'm here to be of service on this planet, on this world." And how can you move that forward? So we've actually only got about 3 more minutes. I'd love you to just talk a little bit about the book and what you're doing next.
Oh, well, fantastic. The book I wrote, like I said, to be a self-leader, to transform your life. It's a step-by-step guide. You can dip in, dive if you want in it, but I encourage you to read it and then reread it and study it and use it as a blueprint and as a manual. People love it. It's great all around the world. It's also an audiobook now, so that's cool. It's hardcover, paperback. Get the book. I'm involved with a couple of film projects, a couple of documentaries, some things for the Los Angeles Tribune, but then 2 or 3 other things that are independent of the Tribune, which is very exciting. A new documentary project that is really exciting, and I got a good guy who's worked on all these major motion pictures to come on as a producer with me just within the last couple of weeks. So I'm thrilled with that. I'm teaching. I got online programs and courses. I invite, I speak, I talk, I show up, I train. I consider myself a brain trainer. My background's in whole brain learning and accelerated learning. So it's not about shortcuts, but it's about how we learn the easiest, the quickest, the swiftest, with the least amount of struggle, and how we keep the learning, because if we don't keep it, it's not much value. But the other thing is, and this is important, I'm a filmmaker, I'm an actor. I have my little Screen Actors Guild hat, things like that. And that, I produced a movie once more than a decade ago. It was one of the worst experiences of my life. Just horrible. Everybody was fighting, everybody was horrible, everything. I was spending months out of town on location. And I'd get up every morning and go, this is the dream I signed up for. This is what it's about. You want to be in show business. Sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's horrible. But if you focus on how horrible it is, I would have left. I would have fled. I would have gone. So you have to look at what is good about it. And I'll tell you, in the film business, you're either a team player or you're gone, because too much money is being spent to keep somebody around who's either grumbling, griping, whining, complaining, or not pulling their weight, or fractionating the team. So you have to learn to do things and not complain. Even, if it's freezing cold. It's like actors who are in the water. It's freezing cold, but they have to look like it's warm. That's your job. So your job is to serve, your job is to give, your job is to help, to uplift and edify, and to make sure that everything comes together to serve whatever that vision is. In the film, it's the vision of the director, of the screenplay, that kind of thing. For us, it's the vision that the person has for their life. For a team like what we're doing right today, it's how do we serve the vision of, say, the Los Angeles Tribune, and get this out, to the people, so that more people can embrace it and become, more effective in their own lives, as well as help other people.
Yeah. Rex, thank you so much for being on today. For myself and the Los Angeles Tribune and Mr. Mo Rock, it's always great to talk to you. You're always doing something, and you're making a difference in other people's lives. You're always being of service, and you're always there, which is a great piece, and it's great to know you. So Rex, thank you so much, and we'll see you again on the highway.
Thank you. And I think we've known each other about 10 years now. So this is a decade of growth and experience.
It's
So.
awesome. It's awesome. I love it. Thank you, Rex. I'll talk to you soon. Rex is just somebody who's just of service and really there and makes a difference. And he's right. We knew each other from Peak Potentials and T. Harv Eker, and he was in the courses, and that's where you just build those bonds. And sometimes, right, the bonds don't start the way you want them. Sometimes, I mean, I tell the story of my business partner, Mary Glorfield. We couldn't stand each other when we first met. And here we are 14 years later as business partners, and we've been business partners a long time now. I think it's been 6 years or 7 years. And it's how do you build those relationships? And I think the relationships are everything. If you take a look at what the Tribune is doing, and I want everybody to register, because if you're still watching this, you should absolutely register. There it is. It's in the comments. Because what that means is we're going to do a special call next Tuesday, and you'll all be invited, and it's going to go to your spam, so watch your spam. But we're going to do that really as the community, and we're so excited. And myself will lead the call, and we'll walk through some of the things we learned. We'll talk about what the future is, where we're going. Maybe some of you will be joining us, and it's very exciting. So with that being said, right, as another amazing time here, we're about to have a lot of fun, and you got to have fun with everything you do. And the two gentlemen I'm going to bring up, I'm going to let them do what's called their own ETR. We can do it in many different ways, but I think they have such an amazing background, and I actually just met them. Okay, so, and here's the thing. Everybody knows that community is really big for me. And with the Tribune, we've taken it to community, to people. We're the oldest newspaper in Los Angeles. It is really about family and creating family. And these two gentlemen were just there. They were just there. I saw them at an event. It was funny as heck. They play off each other really well, so they know each other for at least a year. And they bring Hollywood to us. They bring stories to us. They're storytellers. They're filmmakers. They're photography. Everything's about telling a story, and how that story moves into leadership, and how that leadership moves into podcasts, and how that podcast moves into film, and it just goes on and on. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring up Martin and Dev. Let me just click those buttons. There's one and there's two. How you guys doing?
Great, thank you so much.
Very good, Michael.
Yeah,
Thank you
see,
for
they're
having us
British.
here.
They're ready fighting for the empire. I like this. This is good. So what's great about you two is tell the story. You two grew up near each other, didn't you?
We did, yeah. We grew up very close to each other in the sort of suburbs of southeast London, probably only 2 or 3 or 4 miles away. But we didn't know each other there. We met here in the US a few years into the 90s, and bonded for all those reasons. But also because, as you said, we're both storytellers. We were, young, naive, wet behind the ear storytellers then, but. We've worked together off and on, through the years, and we got some fun stuff going on. But yeah, we grew up close to each other, and I think we had a perspective on Hollywood back then that maybe was a little different. What about you, Deb?
Yeah, I think so. It's actually interesting, Rex. I was listening to Rex, and what jumped out to me how much circumstance and luck plays into. Mark was working, interning at Roger Corman's with Martin's ex-wife. Photography school 3 months, 4 months before, and Martin worked at this magazine, that Pop Connection, and that was the beginning of the journey of working together creatively.
Yeah, I love it. You're breaking up just a little, Dev, so we might see about your signal. But the biggest thing is tell everybody just a little bit about, and I'll have Martin go first, a little bit about your story and how you got to where you were to tell those stories, to work with those people. Go ahead, Martin.
Well, as I say, I grew up in the suburbs of southeast London. No one in my family was in the media or telling stories, or didn't have any silver spoon in my mouth in that regard. But I became very fascinated early on with telling stories, and particularly in my case, true stories. So I gravitated towards being a journalist. but I was also a little bit of an iconoclast back then. So when the opportunity to be the conventional route to journalism in the UK is to work on a small little provincial local newspaper and work your way up, I didn't want to do that. So I just sort of dived into being a freelance journalist. And I wrote for really publications all over the world about all kinds of things, including hip hop, which you can see behind us,
Right.
which we can tell you about a little bit later. But from there, I got into television, still telling true stories, documentaries, and so on. Worked for National Geographic and CNN and Discovery. Won an Emmy somewhere along the way, and I'm still kind of pinching myself that I get to do this. Honestly, I think every time someone tells me their story, I'm humbled, honestly, that you can get into people's lives and they'll give you their time and their story.
Yeah.
So that's
And
how
it
I
is
kind of.
yeah, it is about Dev. I'll let you go in a sec, but it is about their lives and sort of what they create and those stories behind it. I think that's the important piece and from a leadership perspective, it is the stories that we learn from. It's the stories that move us forward. And by the way, even though you sneak it in, if you look at how many people have truly won an Emmy compared to not, congratulations. Because
Thank you, thank you.
it's not like, it's not like, oh, you won an Emmy. It's you won an Emmy, right? So you did something that was recognized by your body of work, and I think that's a really important. I think that's the kind of thing we need to celebrate and really look at. It's not about the ego; it's the body of work or whatever you did that brought you there. Okay, Dev, go ahead.
Hey, so hopefully I'm not breaking up anymore. Hopefully the connections are better. I grew up in Southeast London as well, or Southeast England, but I was sort of a bit journalist really for most of my life. And I had a really good friend, Mark Osborne, really into photography, and was a real guide, kind of like an odd sort of mentor in a way. And I wanted to do something creative, and I went to a film and television school where it had a photography minor, and I took them because quickly and on my own, and I really liked that. So that was part of my journey, discovering how to use camera.
Dev, you're still breaking up a little bit.
I am okay.
Yes.
I go out.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Kim?
Try somewhere else than there, and I'll hold
Yeah,
the phone
that's
till
right.
you get
Take a move. I'll talk to Martin. Yeah, take a move.
Unfortunately.
We go through everything, Martin, and it's really about it's connection. It's right when we were with Gene Simmons yesterday, his hotel just had a terrible connection. And you still move through. You still go for right. You're telling the story, so we still listen to his stories, and then when he was gone, then we reshifted. So part of what you're doing too is this is a media company with a media group, but we really look at positive media. We look at creating stories that really help people and make a difference. It's not sort of the rah. It's not what it's about. But it's about where you're at today and how you can really take that to the next level. Talk a little bit about where you are today and with a little bit of the past and how that's moving forward.
Well, where I'm at today, myself and Deborah have kind of joined forces after not working together for quite a while, to revisit the mid '90s. And like I said, I was a journalist back in the day. Then covered a lot of different things. Was always a hip hop fan even before I moved to the States, and I happened to move here in the early '90s, which now we know is really kind of the heyday of rap music. So we put together a coffee table book based on our former work, which I think the moral of the story is when you've spent a few years creating content, telling stories, you have a kind of a legacy kind of reservoir of knowledge and content that people want to see, and it's not done yet. That's what I've discovered in this. We're reaching back to a time when when people were well, maybe it was a simpler time, pre-internet, and certainly when pop culture was quite different than it is now.
Yeah. And the thing is, though, if you really take a look at everything that you two learned. Hello, Dev. Welcome back.
Hi, is that better?
That's we'll find out in a minute. Go ahead, finish your story.
Oh, so I finish my story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were asking about. I mean, this is about leadership and inspiration. That's what we're trying to. That's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
The thing I would say is to be inspired by by the people around you. And one of the things that was a real gift for me, especially in this body of work for our book, was meeting Martin. I'd always had this dream of being able to shoot a subculture. Well, I got to do that dream with Martin. Thank you, Martin, for that. But the thing that was wild was that within this subculture, these people all became superstars. And one thing I want to encourage everyone is, if you're in a theater group or their local bands, and you're a photographer and that's what you want to do, photograph that, because you never know where something goes. We would never have known that, Martin, right? Ever.
Right. Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, the book actually starts with the story of Snoop Dogg in 1992 or 3 or 4 being, really an outlaw and an outsider. Actually, he was charged with murder early on in his career when his first album came out. And now he's got a TV show with Martha Stewart and is hosting the Olympics, which is, on the one hand, it's just pinched me in my dreaming because I wasn't imagining that. But what I was imagining when I met most of these folks, Ice Cube and Ice-T and Snoop as well, is the drive, the drive of people who achieve these things. I think people who look from the outside at celebrities think it all came easy. And, in terms of leadership and vision and really, in a way, leading themselves, I mean, they drove themselves to the next step. And most of these interviews happened when these guys were really in their early 20s, really just coming out, into the limelight. And yet, both their drive and their vision and their intelligence and street smarts, it's not that surprising when you really think about it. They weren't going to just, do a couple of records and disappear.
Right. It's that. Go ahead, Dev.
I was going to say, one of the things today, I was reading Martin's interview with Ice-T, and we were at the house when the OJ chase took place, or just the day before that. What was wild was I felt like I was back there, real time. That was really happening. Like we were actually, I remember being in that room with him. And one of the things that I found very interesting, because we're talking about leadership, is in the way that he was very open about things and very straightforward. And you say that in the interview, Martin. You say how straightforward he is about things. He's not sugar. He doesn't have airs and expectations. He's just talking in a straightforward way about what he believes, what he thinks, and the level of intelligence that he brings to things is stunning.
Absolutely. I actually read a book in the sort of process of doing my book, read a book which described Ice-T at Warner Brothers in those first, it's actually probably even the late 80s. And, again, for leadership, for sort of how do you sort of achieve your dream? This guy worked the room. This guy was the guy at Warner Brothers to talk to about this new culture then. And the way the book describes him is that, from the boardroom down. And, again, moral of the story is putting yourself out there, being personable and smart and intelligent and engaging with everyone you meet. Because in his case, some of those folks, he probably were interns back then, ended up probably hiring him for, a movie a few years later.
That's right. Yeah. And, part of it too, I think the important part here is I look at two gentlemen on this screen who literally entered one of the hardest industries to be part of, right? Because it's not dog eat dog, but it is. I mean, it's just, and here you still are. And here you're moving forward. What keeps you going?
I mean, adapting and pivoting. And I mean, the media has changed, beyond all recognition, for good and bad over the years. I think we've both, adapted our careers and our, the ways we tell our stories and how we do this stuff through the years, from print to TV to streaming. Yeah. And ironically, back to books, which is, the 21st century medium I maintain.
I'd say, Michael, it's interesting because when I met you, I would say you share this. It's like you've got so much more to do, and there's so much more you want to do, and you're so much more interested, and it's always interesting. That right? The thing the event for people watching, when watching Michael in a space, watching his passion and love people and how he interacts with people and how he wants to talk to everybody. I mean, he is that you think like a journalist. You want everybody's story. You want to interact. Martin's the same. I feel more driven, more passionate, more excited as I get older because I have less time to do things, and I so much more I want to do. And I also think that the gift. Can I share a quick story?
Yes, please.
When I was a photography assistant, I was in a room, right? And I was in a room, I was assisting Matthew Ralston, and Britney Spears was there. I'd been an assistant for about 4 years. I was coming to the end of being an assistant, and she started to sing. And there was me and maybe 10 people. And I went to the assistant next to me. Oh my God, I just want to go home. And he looked at me and he said, "Know where you're standing, dude. People pay a lot of money to hear this woman sing, and you're in a room with 9 other people, and she's just singing for us." And I think part of it is that as one gets older, one gets that passion. I really appreciate where I'm standing. I really, really enjoy every moment that I get to be creative. Do you have that, Martin? Like I really get.
I mean, I think the reason I did what I did career-wise is for those experiences and those moments and those, to be that, in a way, the fly on the wall. And, I wouldn't have been there otherwise. And the ability to, you're a therapist in a way when you're a journalist. You're tell me your secrets. And I've really enjoyed, that sort of license to talk to people and have them tell me their innermost thoughts. But mostly about experiences. It's that. I don't know if Airbnb came up with the experiences over things. If they invented it, I take my hat off to them because I think it's a really good motto to live by, even though it's just a commercial.
Well, and go ahead.
I also have to say one of the things, Michael, one of the things I think is great is that the thing I like that you're doing with the Tribune is you're not out to be a sensational journalist. You're not out to get people. And I think one of the things is, my wife is an actress. I see how hard it is for artists to put themselves out there. And I think we want to celebrate those people. We don't want to bring them down. And I think it's a very difficult media landscape now because sensationalism and that kind of stuff sells. But ultimately, what I love and what I'm passionate about talented people. And one of the things that the gift Martin gave me by taking me on this journey with him was when you're in a room with people that can write like that, and can make music like that, you're kind of like, it's like a magic trick, isn't it? Have you both had that where you're like, I couldn't do that. That's magic to me, what you're doing. And I think just to interact with that and record that in some way is super exciting.
Yeah, I think there's that great passionate piece. You're right that it's not. Somebody once said, "I have a little more pain. I walk a little differently. When I get up off a chair, it takes me a little longer." But that shouldn't stop your passion. That shouldn't stop, because there's a gentleman who was in our industry, Zig Ziglar, and literally did it to the day he was in the box, right? And I have said that same thing. No matter what goes, I've got grandchildren, I've got children. There's nieces and nephews and people coming up, and it's not about what I'm going to leave. See, legacy is always a tricky thing. I just want to make sure that I do whatever I can to make this a place they can live in. And I think if you continue that, no matter what you're in, I mean, that's the beauty of what filmmakers, when you have millions of people, right? And we were talking to Joseph McClendon the other day, who spoke in front of 6 million people. Like, not many people have done that in front of, you have movie and this, but it's the lives we're going to change, because then they talk to some people and now there's 30 million people talking about what you're doing. And I think that's why we're still here. And that's the reason podcasting, I'm going to flip this for a second, but because we're coming down on time, but podcasting is storytelling. That's what it's really become. It's really about the story. And that's why I think you two are brilliant at this. And I think there's all these stories to tell. Stories just not in hip hop. Stories. You've been around. You've heard it. You've been in rooms. That's a great story. And I think that's why, we're talking about a podcast, everybody, that we might do with Martin and Dev. But whether we do it or they do it, it's still a story you need to listen to. And I think that's an important part. We just have a couple minutes left. What would you like to leave the audience with, from the perspective of leadership, storytelling, and just community? Go ahead.
Well, I think, another cliche, but if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. If you go out trying to be a leader, then you might probably never be one. But if you go out trying to do the best on any given thing and engage people in any, at every turn, then you'll get there.
Yeah. Awesome.
I think my one is an interesting one. When I was in Atlanta on a project, and I met this Vietnam veteran, and he said there's a number of ways to live your life. There are people who work for people, and there are people who have people work for them, and there's some people who go through the middle. And I think I've lived my life as a person who kind of goes through the middle. I do have people work for me, but I feel like you can have that. You can have that life that you want, and you can create the thing you want. And the whole beauty of it is it doesn't exist, and it's great that things don't exist. That I'm 60. I don't know how old you guys, but I'm still amazed that there are still so many exciting things to talk about and do. Right.
Definitely.
Yeah. Here's one thing, and I'll leave it with, because so I'm older than you, but that's good. And Joseph McClendon, when he was on the call, he's turning 72. That man has more energy than anybody. They just did an event with 60,000 people live. So it's never done. He's traveling. It's never, and we're not done. Somebody actually just commented, be great to have a podcast with you two. I agree. So we'll have more conversations, whether it's with us or something. Absolutely. I'm going to make sure these two do something. But it is about those stories. People are hungry for those stories. And it's not the voyeurism part. It's really how we can do it differently and how we make a difference. And I was talking to, you guys know Malcolm Jamal Warner. Yes. And he was saying the interesting thing about the Tribune, and this is where I feel really good, and our CEO, Mo Rock, really does. He said, you're so different than everybody else I've met in this industry. I can't figure you out, but there's something I want to part. So he signed on, right? And signed on doesn't mean anything. We're very different that way. We don't no big contracts. You want to be part of the family, fantastic. But it is that positive media side that I think will make a difference always. Wherever we go, at least I know that there's something we've left. And just meeting you two, it's been a pleasure in my life. I loved you two up on stage, with Juliet. I loved the communication, the way you two banter back and forth. And I think that's what people need to hear to make a difference. So I'll give you each 10 more seconds. Anything, just even one word, or leave them with a thought. Go ahead, Martin.
Well, firstly, thank you. And secondly, yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, authenticity counts, and, clickbait and fakeness doesn't. And, doing something real is what really builds relationships.
Agreed.
I just wanted to thank you as well for having us. And I hope we get to do some other stuff together. That would be super fun for us. And for anyone out there, just make your stuff. Yeah. Do it. Have fun. Yeah. Enjoy it.
Awesome. Give them a thunderous round of applause. You can put 5s in the chat. It's been a great day. You two just have a brilliant day the rest of the day. I look forward to hearing from you. And we'll talk soon. Bye, Martin. Bye, Dev. They are awesome. They're awesome. And, we actually have, in a couple of weeks, we have the Australian Leadership Show coming up. And so there's all these pieces and this communication and everything we do together. But Martin and Dev are just brilliant at what they do. And I was honored to meet them. And it's changed my life in a very short period of time. So we're coming towards the end. I think somebody's going to join me. Maybe, maybe not. There we go. There we go. Everybody give a round of applause to Parisa Rose and Alicia Magnus Lewis. Look at that. Yes. So tell me, Parisa, that last segment, one thing.
Joy.
Yeah. Wow. That nailed it.
Sustainable joy. 2 words, sustainable joy.
Yeah, I love it. Alicia?
I think time is a figure of speech. It's like, it's not real. Like, you can do whatever you want, whenever you want to. You just have to be committed to wanting to do it for yourself and show up.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's a big, it's been a great day. It's been so many different perspectives, and, we had a chef on, right? Right. And it's just so many different perspectives, and changing the world and making a difference, and a mayor on, and just being real with what's going on and how we create that. So, it's just, this has been amazing. We have day 7. I'm going to turn this over to you two.
Michael, before you turn it over, I would love to know, what was your biggest takeaway from today? Everyone always goes around and you never get to go. So I want to make sure we get to hear from you. What was your
Yeah.
biggest
Yeah. Well, just having a chef on to me, that was awesome. So, and it's funny, you have a chef on, no matter what they're talking about, I'm still thinking about food. Um, but
fact?
I think for me, and it's not just because I was part of the segment, I think Lefty, the way he works with his children,
Mm.
I just that piece of we're leaving a legacy, but we're family, and we're not bigger than anybody else, but we're part of this world. I think that for me is just and dare to dream, because it hits me with my grandchildren and children, brings all that up and what we're doing. But I've met his children, and they're lovely, they're wonderful. His 16-year-old, he's like a 90-year-old man who's been on in the mountains, right? And that for me was just huge. And I think Lefty's the kind that's going to make a really impression in this world, and those are the people we want to hear more from.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. It's each one of us receives and gains a different insight and gleans different information from the same person speaking. So it's always really awesome to hear what you have to say. Thanks, Michael. That was awesome.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Well, you
Mike.
too. It's just been brilliant. I'm gonna take myself down, and it's been a great show, and tomorrow is gonna be just amazing. So
Mhm.
thank you two so much.
Thanks, Michael. Alicia, you want to take us into tomorrow? I'm excited. Day 7.
Yes. For those of you that have been tuning into day 6 of LA Tribune Leadership Week 2025, we appreciate you. We've seen the comments. We appreciate you showing up and being a part of the conversation. And as you see, as you ask questions, as you share your reflections, we bring them part into the conversation. I have to say, Debbie Predator and Annie Boone, we appreciate you sticking with us all day. Yes, Annie, there were so many diverse conversations today. That's what Leadership Week is about. It's about bringing people in from different industries to share different perspectives on what leadership means to them. And I have to say, it was so nice to hear from EJ Williams when he was up here with his dad, Lefty Williams. I think it was a true representation of how leadership is observed. You can tell that EJ has learned so much from his dad, from his mom, and the presence that his family brings. We're just continuing with Leadership Week. For day 7, we are opening with John DiMartini. It's going to be a powerful segment hosted by our very own Donna Campbell. We are going to hear from individuals from Soul Sparks Press Publishing. We're going to hear from the women of the Los Angeles Tribune Women's Journal. There is a very, very special segment with Dean Graziosi. You're also going to hear from additional headliners from the Los Angeles Tribune film, The Pillars of Power. You're going to hear from Marcy Hopkins, Coot Blacks, and there are so many more guests for you to hear from that are going to highlight so many different vantage points on what it means to be a leader and how to show up. So thank you for joining us today, and stay tuned for day 7 of our 8-day leadership week. Parisa, before we go to our CEO Mo Rock's TED Talk, what is your biggest reflection from today, day 6 of leadership week, and what are you most looking forward to tomorrow in day 7?
Quality question. I saw it coming, but I wasn't prepared for it. But I was, because I have my notes.
Love your
Albert,
notes.
Albert, when he said mission over mood, always choose your mission over your mood. Like at the point of acknowledging both, choosing one, and really that power of choice, being in that resolve, just being a commitment to that decision, that intention, just remain a commitment to yourself. Dang it. Come on. It's a lot easier said than done. And as I've said in past broadcasts before, that my own personal definition of discipline is that it's a reflection of your own self-respect. And again, easier said than done. But we get to continue to lean into that respect of ourselves by remaining disciplined, by remaining a commitment to what we have chosen to be a commitment to. And always, 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 our CEO, Mo Rock, coming in clutch with the quotes. You may never know what results come of your actions, but if you do nothing, there will be no result, by the one and only Gandhi. Thank you, Mo, for that quote. Always delivering. Always. Thank you, Mo.
Thank you so much, Mo, for that insight there. I love that. I think action has come up a lot, that you can learn so much, that you can study so much, but what does it mean to actually take action? And no one else can take action but you.
Right.
So it's amazing to be guided by individuals that have been there, that are speaking life into you, but you just have to get to a point where you have to walk it and take that action. And I love that that has come up. Any last insights, Parisa? And then we're going to transition right into Mo Rock's TED Talk, which is all about bringing more positivity to the world and looking at media in a different way. And here at the Los Angeles Tribune, it's all about shifting the status quo. That's why we're having conversations like the ones that we're having as part of Leadership Week, because we really believe in the positivity that people can share through their stories and the ability for news to inspire and to empower. And you're going to hear more about that in Mo's TED Talk. But Parisa, last remarks from you before we dive into Mo's TED Talk to close out Leadership Week, day 6 this year.
I almost can't say it any better, but I will share that Annie Boone says, in the words of Arnold, I will be back. I'll be back. It's so good. Yes. One thing I'd like to share before we head out is that if you've been listening for more than one segment, if you've been listening here for more than 1 minute of this 8-day long broadcast, yes, we do have 2 more days to go. But if you've been listening for more than 1 minute, I'm going to challenge you to interact with us in a way that you have not interacted with us yet, whether it be sharing the stream, whether it be sending it to someone, tossing a comment in the chat, and allowing all of it to be meaningful. And I'm not saying this to just say this. I say this because it helps allow and create connection. We are all called for connection. We are created for connection. We cannot do leadership. We've been talking about leadership, day in, day out. We can't do leadership effectively. It doesn't work effectively when we operate solo. So allow yourself at the most minimal level here in this moment, as you hear me talk, engage with us. And I say us, this stream, the Los Angeles Tribune, myself, Alicia, any one of us that you've seen on screen, hosting and interviewing, interact with us, engage with us in a way that you have not yet. Connect with us, connect with those in the comments. People are really kind in this community, and that is a gold mine. So I encourage you to connect. I look forward to you all connecting and engaging with us. And I will see all y'all tomorrow morning. Well, tomorrow morning for the West Coast. But if you're in a different time zone, I'll see you when that time hits.
Gold drop moment there, and stay tuned. So you will hear from our CEO, Mo Rock.
Imagine waking up in the morning, grabbing your morning coffee, and opening up your daily newspaper to nothing but headlines that inspire and uplift you. Headlines like the Apollo 11 moon landing and how it inspired people in the 60s, or headlines like the Berlin Wall has collapsed, or even more recently, headlines like the miracle on the Hudson. What would that do to your day when you started off with just positive news? My name is Mo Rock. I'm the CEO of a national newspaper brand, and today, together, we are reimagining journalism. You see, studies reveal that there is a stark contrast between positive news and negative news. In fact, for every piece of news that is solutions-based, that can uplift and inspire you, there are at least 17 that don't. That's 17 to 1. So today, we are actually faced with an epidemic of negative news. We've all heard the phrase, if it bleeds, it leads. But why does this have to be the centerpiece of a lot of news production, journalism, and content creation of the world today? There are a lot of incredible journalists that are solutions-orientated, and I give a lot of credit to them for doing a great job. And here's the truth that you may not realize, is that everyone in this room is impacting our news. You see, every single time you like a post, every single time you leave a comment on a news article, and every single time you share something, you're not just liking, commenting, and resharing. You're actually casting a vote. You're not only casting a vote for the kind of news you want to consume, but believe it or not, you're casting a vote for the kind of world you want to live in. You see, I believe that news has the power to not just inform you, but it has the power to mold you. Our world views are largely shaped based on the news and content that we consume. And so I want to encourage folks to remember that the next time that they like, comment, and share. Our organization has one question that it always has to ask before we share anything, print anything, or publish anything. Our editorial team asks this one very simple question. Does the following piece of news empower our audience, or does it disempower our audience? What would the world look like if every content creator, every journalist, every time someone posted a news article, they asked that question? Does the following piece of content empower our audience or disempower our audience? And I want to encourage everyone to participate in this process and help us bridge that gap between 17 negative news articles for every one positive. And let's come together and ultimately make this world a better place. Thank you.